Hope you had a good weekend. My video is a little bit later than usual. It's taken me a little bit longer to set up dinner tonight because the recipe is just a tad bit has more ingredients. But I'm gonna tell you all about it. I can't wait to try it as soon as it's done in a few minutes. But James and I went up to Florence. Hi, Cecilia. On Thursday to visit my great-grandparents, and we were there until Saturday morning. And while we were there, my grandmother just has a ton of cookbooks in her house. I just love, she has basically a floor-to-ceiling cookbook bookcase in her kitchen, and I would love to have one of those one day, just since it would just be a great way to have my cookbooks near hand. But anyway, she has so many cookbooks, and I was just looking through them, trying to get ideas. And one of the cookbooks she has is Frank Stitt's cookbook, the owner of Highlands Bar Grill. And that's mine and Dane's absolutely favorite restaurant, and it's my grandparents too, perchance. And now it's actually the #1 restaurant in America. After being nominated for the James Beard Award for several years in a row, they finally won, which is very exciting, but also makes it really hard to get a reservation. If you don't call exactly 30 days out, you're not going to get one. I'll just tell you, I tried to get a reservation for our anniversary at the end of the month, but I waited until 28 days out instead of 30, and we could have picked 10 o'clock, 9:30, so I think we're going to try to squeeze in at the bar or go somewhere else. But I'm excited to try some of the recipes from this cookbook from our favorite restaurant. And one of the first thing that I made tonight was a peach Bellini. So I did mine a little bit different than the recipe in the book. So basically, the Highlands recipe is to use fresh Chilton County peaches. Of course, Chilton County has the best peaches, and we always try to get those from the farmers market, whether it's our farmers market here at Ross Bridge or the Pepper Place Market on Saturday mornings, which we love to go to. But squeeze the juice. Just with clean hands, squeeze the juice out of peaches and strain it out, and use about 3/4 cup of fresh peach juice with 1 bottle of Prosecco and 1 ounce of simple syrup and lemon juice to taste. But I actually didn't use any simple syrup. I think that the fresh peach juice and the Prosecco is absolutely sweet enough on its own, and I think so I just used the fresh peach juice and the Prosecco, and I added a few mint leaves for a garnish and as a little subtle twist to it, because mint and peaches go really well together. Grilled peaches with a little bit of mint and vanilla ice cream would be really great as well. That would go good with the peach Bellini. So that's our cocktail for tonight, and we're also making crab cakes. So the reason it took me so long tonight was because first I made clarified butter to cook the crab cakes in, and to make clarified butter in a saucepan, just melt down butter over low heat. Do at least half a cup of butter or 2 sticks. You need a little bit of a volume to make this work. So do half a cup or a full cup of butter. So melt that down over low heat until like the milk solids settle at the bottom, and there's going to be a foam at the top, and you basically scrape the foam off the top, and then you pour it out into a bowl and reserve the milk solids. And I'll post a picture of like where I've separated the foam and the milk solids in the clarified butter, and you're left with a really clear butter that has a higher smoking point than regular butter, so it makes it easier to cook with on the stove and fry with. Just like you would kind of use canola oil versus olive oil for frying, because you have a higher smoke point. Hey Kelly, hey Shauna. And then the other sauce I made, I need to mix this up, it's kind of settling out, but I made beurre blanc as a sauce to go with our crab cakes. And so to make the beurre blanc, so you mix together white wine vinegar and white wine and thyme and a finely minced shallot, and you reduce that you boil it and reduce it to a thick syrup. I actually used Prosecco, since I was using it to make the peach Bellini, and so I used actually Prosecco vinegar instead of white wine vinegar, so that would kind of complement each other. So I made a little bit of twist to that recipe, just using what you have on hand. Hi Grandpa, how are you doing? And so, apparently the cookbook said that shallots are an underutilized and underappreciated ingredient. And I'm not sure if I actually found shallots at Publix. I looked through all the onion family, and I did find the green onions that the recipe called for the crab cakes, and I got what looked like a shallot to me. It was small, and shallots are really small and look like a cross between an onion and garlic. And when you open it up and cut it up, it separates into cloves like garlic instead of into concentric rings like an onion. So I got the closest thing that I saw to a shallot, but I'm not sure that I actually got a shallot, because this is what I got. And when I opened it up, it looks like the concentric rings that you would have from an onion. So maybe I just got a really small onion, I'm not sure. So instead of finally mincing that up, I just kind of cut it up into eighths, and I put an eighth of the onion or shallot or whatever this is into the start of my clarified butter, so I could just scoop that out afterwards. I'm not a huge onion fan, so I just wanted to get a little bit of extra flavor to it and it not be overwhelming. So again, a little bit of tweak to the recipe. But after that, I turned the heat off and mixed in a little over a teaspoon of heavy cream, and then I turned the heat on to low, and I mixed in 1 stick of butter. I just did about, a tablespoon or 2 at a time, and stirred it in until it was fully dissolved, and then kept going until that was fully done. And then after that, turned the heat off, let it cool a little bit, and then added a few tablespoons of lemon juice and salt and white pepper to taste. You can also add some more of the white wine vinegar if you want to taste, or Tabasco sauce or another hot sauce was also listed as things that you can add to taste. I didn't add any heat to it, but I probably used 2 to 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, because I like this the nice sharpness that lemon juice brings, and that gives it a little bit more of acidity to it. And I tasted the Beurre Blanc, and it's delicious so far. I don't think I told y'all the quantity I used of the white wine vinegar and the Prosecco. The recipe called for 3/4 a cup of each, but I just did half the recipe, so I did 3/4 cup total of the Prosecco, and the Prosecco vinegar I did about half and half of that, and then I just did maybe a teaspoon or 2 of dried thyme, since I didn't have fresh thyme on hand. My thyme plant died, y'all. Pretty much everything died except the basil, and I rescued a few leaves today because it was doing really bad. I got some mint at the store a few days ago, and the mint is actually doing really well right now, so hence the mint in my peach Bellini. But I think I'm going to start all over again with my herbs for the summer. My problem is that I forget to water them. If you don't water your plants, they die. So lesson learned, if you don't feed your kid, they starve. If you don't water your plants, they die. And it's a lot easier to feed James because he will vocalize if you forget to feed him, or if you're a little bit late feeding him. My plants don't do that. So we've got our sauces ready, and I put a couple tablespoons of the clarified butter in our pan here. I actually used canola oil to cook James some crab cakes. He already ate, and I made his crab cakes without any butter mixed in, and then I cooked it in the canola oil, so it would be dairy-free for him, and he gobbled them right up, so that was fun. So over here, so I have our crab cakes, and I've breaded most of them. I'll do one in a minute. So again, I did half the recipe. The recipe said it would make about 8 crab cakes, and I just did half. But so for half the recipe, I did 1 pound of crab meat, and I did half jumbo lump and then half crab claws. So 8 ounces jumbo lump crab meat, and then 8 ounces crab claw meat, and mix that together. If you want to make the recipe a little bit more affordable, I would go with regular lump crab meat versus jumbo lump, and then do the other half crab claw meat. But I was trying to stick pretty well consistent with the recipe as close as I could, and I didn't mind a little bit of a splurge because Dane loves crab cakes. He loves really any kind of seafood growing up in Mobile, and so this is kind of an early Father's Day treat for him, a little bit more of a special dinner. So So those, and then the recipe also called for shallots, which, as I explained before, I'm not sure that I really found shallots at the store. I need to like go to Whole Foods or Fresh Market or maybe Sprouts down the street and really investigate, you know, if some of the local farmers make shallots and if there's something different than what I bought that's more correct for next time. But anyway, so I just kind of skipped the shallots for the recipe. It called for, I think, 2 tablespoons. Let's see. Yeah, the original recipe called for 2 tablespoons of chopped shallots, so I would have only used 1 tablespoon for doing half the recipe, but I just skipped that. So instead of, since I was skipping the shallots, I went ahead and did a full tablespoon of scallions instead of half a tablespoon to kind of make up for that. And I did about 1.5 tablespoons of chopped parsley instead of 1 tablespoon to kind of balance that out. And like I said, I love lemon, and that's one of my favorite flavors to cook with. And so I just went ahead and did a whole lemon grated zest instead of half a lemon. But I did stick with 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, and I did a pinch of cayenne pepper. And nutmeg isn't my favorite, and I don't have it on hand anyway, but I do have paprika on hand. I love paprika. I think it's a great complement to seafood, and so I did a pinch of paprika instead of nutmeg. And so I did 3/4 cup medium coarse breadcrumbs, which I made from day-old French bread, sans the crust, and let's see, and then a little bit of salt and freshly ground black pepper to taste. And so I just, and one large egg beaten as well in that. And so I took out part of the crab mixture with the herbs and everything for James. And then after I took that out, I used about 2, maybe 2.5 tablespoons of melted butter to mix that all together as well. I just used some dairy-free butter substitute when I mixed James up. So I mixed all of that up and then formed those into patties like you see here. And then I mixed up some more breadcrumbs because I didn't realize that I would need more for the breading. That was kind of an afterthought. But anyway, I made some more breadcrumbs from the French bread, and then I beat an egg and a tablespoon of water and to dip it in. And I actually added just a pinch of salt and a little bit of fresh ground pepper to that for a little bit of extra flavor. And then we just dip our crab cakes in the egg mixture, kind of shake it off, and then dip it in our breadcrumbs. I actually didn't dip, I just cooked James' crab cakes as is and didn't dip it in the extra bread and, the extra egg and breadcrumbs, and that turned out just fine. So that's another option, especially if you're kind of watching your carbs and don't want to add the extra breading, that they turn out just fine and delicious if you skip that part. All right, so those are all set, and I'm going to rinse my hand. Oh, over here we actually have some boiled asparagus, so that's going to go with it. I'm going to move this real quick so I can rinse my hands, but boiling asparagus is so much quicker than roasting asparagus, which I love to do a lot. That's my favorite way, is to grill or roast asparagus, but that roasting asparagus tends to take about 15-20 minutes, and to boil it, you just have to bring water to a boil and then boil the, which I have my stock pot over here, so I boiled water, and then once that came to a boil, put the asparagus in. I'd already trimmed the ends off, and then let that go for like about 3 minutes or so, and it's all set, and then you can drain it. If you're not going to serve the asparagus right away, then you can cool it in an ice water bath to stop the cooking and preserve the color, and then just reheat it later when you're about to serve it. But I finished cooking this right before I started the video, so I'm going to plate that up as soon as the crab cakes are done, and that won't take long. Hey Spencer, how are y'all? Alright, so I'm heating my clarified butter, a couple tablespoons, over a medium-high heat here. Waiting for that to get a little hot. If I didn't show you also, a little bit of cream that I put in the beurre blanc, and then the Prosecco vinegar and a little Prosecco that I used for the beurre blanc as well. And then I've been using Kerrygold Irish butter from grass-fed cows. The flavor is so much better than grain-fed cows. And a little bit more heart healthy, I think I've said before. But I've been using that and basically the clarified butter, the beurre blanc, and the crab cakes, etc. And then we always use dairy-free stuff for James. All right, so we have I'm going to keep the clarified butter on hand in case we need a little bit of extra. But that's heating up nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and stick these in. Yeah, I don't know if y'all can hear it, but it's kind of sizzling and you can see it's bubbling, so that's just perfect. The ones I made for James smelled so good and it was making me hungry. So I'm going to be excited when these are done. Dan and I went ahead and had an appetizer. We had, I sliced up some French bread and then put some Cajun crab dip on it. Y'all, Cajun crab dip is so good. I like that better than regular crab dip. All right. Oops, okay. All right, so this is on medium-high heat. And like I said before, if you missed it, the clarified butter has a higher smoke point than regular butter, so way better for frying or, or sauteing or anything like that. So I'm going to cook these for 3 to 4 minutes on one side until golden brown, and then flip and do 3 to 4 minutes on the other side, and then they should be done. And I can serve that up with our beurre blanc and our asparagus, and the beurre blanc will make a really good dressing for the asparagus as well, kind of like a substitute for a hollandaise sauce, which also goes really well with asparagus. I'll have to make that another time. So I'm going to post pictures of some of the steps in the process and then the finished plates. Bon appetit. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your time with your family. Take care.